Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti te bihitastata Vikrama Shangadhanavaha Sindur Nirmantane Yena Drita Prishte Mahachalaha. Shukadev Goswami said, "My dear king, the person who bore the great mountain on his back for the churning of the ocean of milk is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead known as Sharangadhanva. I have now described to you his prowess." Etan muhu kirtayato nushrinvato narishyate jatu samudyama kachit yaduttama shloka gunanuvarnanam samasta samsara parishramapaham. The endeavor of one who constantly hears or describes this narration of the churning of the ocean of milk will never be fruitless. Indeed, chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only means to annihilate all sufferings in this material world. And the final verse, text 47. Asad avishayam angrim bhavagamyam prapannan amritam amaravaryan ashayat sindhumatyam kapata yuvati vesho mohayanya surarims tamaham upasritanam kamapuram natosmi. Assuming the form of a young woman and thus bewildering the demons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead distributed to his devotees, the demigods, the nectar produced from the churning of the ocean of milk. Unto that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always fulfills the desires of his devotees, I offer my respectful obeisances. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The instruction of this narration concerning the churning of the milk ocean is clearly manifested by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although he is equal to everyone, because of natural affection, he favors his devotees. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:29, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mayite teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. This partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is natural. A person cares for his children, not because of partiality, but in a reciprocation of love. The children depend on the father's affection, and the father affectionately maintains the children. Similarly, because devotees do not know anything but the lotus feet of the Lord is always prepared to give protection to his devotees and fulfill their desires. He therefore says, Konteya pratijanihi, name bhakta pranashyati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. This ends the 8th canto, 12th chapter. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak. It's always a very humbling experience because I really feel like I'm really not qualified. But I am qualified by the empowerment of Srila Prabhupada, who has given us so many ways to understand this. Even if we are simple, we can understand these core points that are put forward time and time again in the Bhagavatam. I was just thinking when I was reading this yesterday, how it's so amazing. It's so amazing that in the Bhagavatam, no matter how unusual or colorful the pastime, there are so many very unusual stories in the Bhagavatam, which, you know, we may get desensitized to how unusual they sound, but even just this churning of the milk ocean with a snake on the back of a tortoise, a divine tortoise, and all of these many different things are coming out of the ocean. What to speak of the pastime with Mohini Murti's appearance, that still these same lessons and teachings are coming time and time again of the supremacy of chanting the holy names of the Lord, that the Lord gives his favor to his devotees, and that the devotee is one who is always thinking of the Lord, who's always endeavoring to serve him. So there's a few points, simple points I wanted to pick out today, and there are three. The first is, again, this point about the eternal victory of one who performs kirtan of the Lord's glories, names, form, qualities, and pastimes. We hear this so much, it's surprising sometimes that we can still need to be reminded of it every day, or that we would somehow miss it. It's sort of just always being reiterated. Yesterday, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's class was so wonderful. He was speaking about how Bhakti redefines success and failure. And I really love this point, because this point about kirtan, that one, it says here in the verse that one who constantly hears or describes this narration of the churning of the ocean of milk will never be fruitless, and that chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only means to annihilate all sufferings in the material world. So to be free from suffering, to never be fruitless, which means to always be successful and achieve the ultimate success, you could say that's really a great thing, and yet it's not the great thing, it's the greatest thing. And yet we define success in so many other temporary or much more shallow ways. So it's a very, I find it to be a visceral experience. I'm sure many of you who are tuning in this morning for the class, one of the reasons that you tune in for this class is because you have an experience that when we make a connection with the kirtan of the Lord's glories, there's something happens in the heart. We may not be able to deeply analyze it, but I come away from it feeling, I feel better. I feel peaceful in my mind, or I feel nourished. I know that I was having this experience last Saturday when the Bhakti Center is hosting these classes about the 9 processes of devotional service. And we were listening to Radhika Raman Prabhu speak about hearing, about Shravanam and spiritual sound vibration. And he quoted this wonderful verse from Prithu Maharaj in the 4th canto, where it's one of my favorite verses, where he says that the glorification of the Lord's lotus feet is like these saffron particles from the center of the lotus flower. It sort of has this pollen, which is like sometimes described like dust, saffron dust. And that when that vibration of the mouths of great devotees speaking this kirtan carries that dust, this aroma, only the aroma of the dust, that the living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with the Lord. So it's so incredible, the potency of this this process of kirtan. I know for myself, I've experienced that in a very tangible way, not only just to be able to attend a class and feel better or feel enlivened or enlightened, but one very, very practical thing I experienced was that a few years ago I had this phobia from childhood. It was a very the definition of a phobia is that it's an illogical fear. It's not really based on reality, but it's I guess an affliction of the mind. It's an extreme fear that arises usually because of some negative experience. So I had this phobia in childhood. I won't say what it was, but when I was a few years ago, it surprised me by coming up again. It started to come back. And I found that although it wasn't a phobia related to traveling, it sort of spread into a fear of going on planes or any kind of transport, actually. It was very illogical. And it was really debilitating for a while because I needed to travel and move around, and even just to get on the train to go somewhere. And people recommended me all these different methods to address that fear. And I tried different things. And I found ultimately what really worked for me was listening to kirtan. It was really incredible to try these different things and experience them to maybe work a little bit, but be very temporary. And I remember I found this kirtan of Bhakti Tirtha Swami. It was like a temple room kirtan where I could hear the devotees who were dancing and running back and forth. I put on my headphones and close my eyes and just feel myself to be in that kirtan and chant the response and see myself dancing. And it was like magic. The fear would just go away. So this was a very powerful experience for me of overcoming fear by the process of kirtan. And that's just on my simple level of operating, that I still experience great fear sometimes. What to speak of one whose consciousness is becoming gradually refined. Prahlad Maharaj, he speaks about this in the 5th canto of the prayers of the residents of Jambudvip. He says that the activities of Mukunda are so potent that simply by hearing of them, one immediately associates with the Lord. For a person who constantly and very eagerly hears narrations of the Lord's powerful activities, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, in the form of sound vibrations, enters within his heart and cleanses it of all contamination. And the analogy is made here that although one can visit holy places and sacred rivers so many times, that purification that takes place there doesn't compare to one who just hears the glories of the Lord. So, this is another wonderful line from the purport of that verse, that Srila Prabhupada says that the Supreme Lord within everyone's heart becomes very pleased when a person hears narrations of his activities, and he personally cleanses the dirt from the mind of the listener. He personally cleanses the dirt from the mind of the listener. So that explains why this activity has this this potent quality that's not really explainable, like our dear friend Raghunath, yoga teacher. He loves to say, makes no, what does he say? Makes no logical sense, or makes no material sense. You can't explain, why does this have this profound effect on me? So Prabhupada says that he personally cleanses the dirt from the mind of the listener. So this extension of the Lord to personally care for us, to personally cleanse the dirt from the mind and heart, is an expression of his love and favor. And as is said in the last verse that we read here, the Lord's love and favor for the devotees is not due to partiality, but is a reciprocation of love. And the example is given of a parent who naturally, although they may be a person who is a good person in society, they may be charitable, a philanthropist even, and serve so many people in their community, but still naturally they're going to have a very different and deeper kind of relationship of loving reciprocation with their child. It gives the example here of the father. This is in the Prabhupada's commentary on this Bhagavad Gita verse, that the children depend on the father's affection, and the father affectionately maintains the children. So I'm staying here with my sister Tulsi and Namras, and they just they've just welcomed a new child, new baby boy a week ago, and already have one who many people tuning in today might know, Gaurachandra. And whilst I'm staying here, I'm seeing this principle sort of in action, an illustration of this principle, how they're working so hard to serve their children with so much love, and to also give them experiences of connecting with Krishna as the ultimate expression of love of a parent, to give their children Krishna bhakti. And based on that service, this bond of affection grows, and the reciprocation of love is very natural. It's a very beautiful thing to see. But yet the other day, Namas was saying that actually he felt he didn't fully appreciate in some ways his parents until he became a parent himself. And this is a very common thing that people will say. My mother says the same thing when she joined the devotees when she was 19 years old. And it was a huge trauma for her parents initially. It was a very, very difficult thing for them to accept. And she couldn't appreciate that. And then finally, when she had children, she realized the anxiety and the sacrifices and the suffering that they went through. So sometimes it takes many decades for us to really understand and to be grateful and to reciprocate that which we have been given. And I was thinking, in that same way, the Lord is always there, is always giving us so much, is present within the heart, witnessing everything that we do, everything we say, every action we take, sanctioning so many of them, and giving love. And until we are awake to that fact, we may be very neglectful to reciprocate that relationship by offering loving service. I love this example from the purport of this Bhagavad Gita verse that Prabhupada quoted here, which is of a diamond set in a gold ring, that it looks so beautiful. Both look more beautiful. He's using the example that the devotee and the Lord are like the diamond set in a gold. The gold ring is like the Lord, and the diamond is the devotee, I think. Which way around, I'm not sure. But he says, the Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. And when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. I guess he's the gold then. He's the gold surrounding the diamond who is the Lord. I just remember that example comes also in a beautiful song by Sant Tukaram from Maharashtra. He uses this example of the gold and the gold ring and the diamond set within it, because he's making a point about those who say that the Atma and the Lord are one and the same. He uses different examples to show how the two can be different but beautify each other by their close and intimate connection. And the third point that I wanted to draw out from here is one which is really it's an overarching point in this whole story, which is about dependence on the Lord in a time of need, whatever need. This is a quality. So the Lord favors those who are devoted to Him. And one of the qualities of a devotee is that they are dependent on the Lord. The demigods do show us how, in some ways, how to do this. Maybe it's not in the ultimate manifestation, because we see that mostly they approach the Lord when they're in a time of distress. You'll see many devotional films, especially the old films from India. This big group of actors running, Pahimam, Pahimam. They always approach the Lord in this big group together, petitioning Him for His mercy. But still, they turn in that way to Him, and it's a wonderful thing to remember. There's example after example in the Bhagavatam, and this is one of the, the Bhagavatam is in many ways showing us example after example of the way to be a devotee of the Lord, by showing us these great personalities. So time and time again, they call out to the Lord in their time of need. Gajendra, as he's gripped by the crocodile, Lord Brahma in his time of great confusion, well, he appeals to the Lord on many occasions. Prahlad Maharaj, as he's being persecuted by his own father. Draupadi, in her time of humiliation and also persecution by her own family members. They call out to the Lord with complete humility and surrender. These principles are, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in his Sharanagati prayers that these are, well, he orders them as the, he puts them in his own order. He puts dainya, or humility, first. And then the third and the fourth limbs, the third is Goptritve Varana, acceptance of the Lord as one's only maintainer. And the fourth is Vishrambhatmika, confidence in Krishna's protection. So this acceptance of the Lord as one's only maintainer, in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs, he has some beautiful songs that characterize this state of consciousness, which the pure devotee or the aspiring pure devotee tries to emulate or tries to cultivate. Two songs are really, well, one is that I always remember, Tumi Sarveshwareshwar. No, sorry, it's Sarvasva Tomar. Sarvasva Tomar, where he characterizes himself as a dog sitting at the doorstep of the Lord. He says, when you feed me, I will eat your remnants. When you come, I will come running. I'll be dancing, and I'll also just sit at the doorstep and guard your property. Also, a beautiful characterization is how Sri Gopal, as he looks after the cows, those cows are completely dependent, completely trusting in his protection. They don't think that he will never be there. They always trust that he will be there to protect them. Sorry, to maintain them. These two are very closely related. They often sort of overlap and cross over. The confidence in Krishna's protection, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a beautiful song Atma Samarpane. It's a song that is almost is spoken in the voice of perhaps one of the residents of Vrindavan, one of the cowherd boys. They're saying that confident in the Lord's protection, we will gladly march into the mouth of Aghasura. We will, without fear, we'll drink the waters of the Yamuna, even though they may be poisoned, but Krishna will protect us. And they always have that confidence that if Krishna's there, everything will work out fine. They might be fearful for a moment, but deep down they know that Krishna will protect us. They call out Krishna, Krishna, and they trust that his hands will be there. So a devotee tries to keep these two principles in their mind always: dependence on the Lord's maintenance and protection, conscious of that state of dependence at all times, not only in a time of distress. That's something that we really have to practice. It's like a muscle you have to work out every day. Practice that. There's a natural difficulty in doing that, which is why Queen Kunti says, let these calamities come time and time again, because in the good times, it is naturally just more difficult to be dependent. Just as, when we're a small baby, right now, this new baby in the house, he's completely dependent. Just even to hold his head up, he's dependent. But when I become, 20, 30 years old, I think, oh, okay, I'm doing it all myself now. I'm independent. I don't need anyone. But it's not true at all. The devotee is surrendered to that maintenance and protection, even when it doesn't look like maintenance and protection. This is an even harder thing to accept. Lord Chaitanya says that I know no one but you as my Lord, and you shall remain so, even if you handle me roughly by your embrace, or make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. It's a very difficult thing to actually realize this when life brings great difficulties. But we can always practice. I was remembering as I was reading that of these words of Lakshmi Devi. Again, these prayers of the residents of Jambudvip in the 5th canto. I always find these so beautiful, all these different prayers of different personalities and how they all pray in their own from their own different perspectives and their own voice. So Lakshmi Devi prays that even she, and she says that even she does not favor anyone, however great he may be, unless he is always engaged in the service of your lotus feet. Because I always keep you within my heart, I cannot favor anyone but a devotee. And she also mentions that the Lord is the only husband. So she says that only a person who gives complete shelter to all fearful persons can actually become a husband and protector. Therefore, my Lord, you are the only husband and no one else can claim this position. Very interesting point. So, so many beautiful lessons and points that have been covered over these weeks of studying this pastime. In the first verse that we read, just even a small point, the first verse says that same person who bore the great mountain on his back for churning the ocean of milk. The person who bore the great mountain on his back for churning the ocean of milk is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead who holds the bow, the Shanga bow. So even just that alone is an amazing lesson from this pastime. How wonderful is the Lord to appear in so many myriad ways that are both bewildering, wonderful, captivating, so enchanting that we are still talking about them so many millions and trillions of years later. But today we just focused on 3 points from these verses. The first was about the supremacy of chanting the holy name, chanting the glories of the Lord. That it annihilates all obstacles, removes all fear, and is the one, as is said in the 12th canto, it's the one good quality of this time that we're living in now, which is in many ways absolutely bewildering, as we face so many shifts and changes in the world. Not that they're, in one sense, not that it's, I don't know if it's really worse than it's ever been. In one sense, it's almost just like it's just more on the surface than it was before. We see it more for what it is. But the one good quality is this ability to reach the Lord immediately through reciting his glories, reciting his pastimes and his holy names. The second point was about the impartiality of the Lord, but how he still favors his devotees because they serve him with love. And that is natural to, especially to one who is subordinate, like a child to a parent, as we are. It's natural to favor them as a reciprocation of love. And the third point was about these two qualities of Sharanagati, or surrender: confidence in the Lord's maintenance, dependence on the Lord's maintenance, and confidence in the Lord's protection. These two things to cultivate every day, I would say. I mean, I think for most of us, well, I speak for myself, I need to cultivate it every day because when I don't think about that, when I don't meditate on that, I think that everything is happening by what I either can or can't do. And when I realize that I'm out of control, then great fear arises, because if I think it's based on me, then, it's a very precarious position. So dependence and faith in the Lord's protection and grace always. So I'd love to hear if anyone has any corrections or any thoughts, reflections, or comments.
Thank you, Madhurima. Thank you for precisely bringing out such amazing lessons from this pastime. Especially, I love the point how you were quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajan like Sarva Swatamar and saying that it's like a muscle. And I also was thinking how these bhajans act like such like bookmarks. Like generally we know so much philosophy, like we read a lot, but we keep like some favorite bookmarks. Like, so these acharyas have given these bhajans like the bookmarks. So thank you for mentioning. It just acts like an easy reminder on these principles. So is there anything that you particularly like? I always see that you lead Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajans like very much. So is there any inspiration behind like it that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's many things I could say about that, but you were saying about bookmarks. You said we know so much philosophy and then there are these bookmarks. So I think for me, I mostly know the bookmarks. I don't know so much philosophy, so I appreciate how Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the acharyas have made it easy for someone like me who remembers. I find that I remember things more easily in the form of a song. And by the writing of these songs, these principles are condensed into they're like sutras, these few verses. When I think of these principles of, for instance, confidence in the Lord's protection, when you engage with these songs, even just taking one verse, the more that you get to know even the word for word meanings, or even if you don't know the word for word meaning, just remembering the meaning of one verse. It's so powerful because just like, we hear if you're just walking in the street or turn on a television, there's so much advertising. And Radhika Raman Prabhu was making this point the other day that sound sort of powers everything. Sound is the thing that really infiltrates deeply into the consciousness. So all advertising is based on sound, audio. Like if you turn the sound off of an advert, or especially turn the sound off of a film, this is the example he was giving. I watched a wonderful documentary about film composers who've composed music for film. And they were showing how without the sound, the film really doesn't have emotional impact. So the sound is really going in deeply. And we're bombarded by sound at all times. And you know, we can remember a song from 30, 40, 50 years ago from childhood because these things stick. So I find that for me, the more I engage with these songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other acharyas, it just helps me to fill my mind more, because my mind is always grasping for songs to remember. So this Atma Samarpane song, for instance, each of the verses touches on a different pastime of Krishna, and how the voice of the voice within the song, the speaker of the song, the singer of the song, who in this case is like a cowherd boy, is saying, you know, we won't be afraid. We'll go and drink the poisoned waters of the Yamuna River. So the way that I got introduced to these songs was actually in school. I was fortunate to go to a school which was, you know, trying to give the students a taste for worshiping, serving Krishna, along with doing our regular subjects. So we used to sing these songs before we began our lessons in the morning. And we would have one song and we would sing that for maybe like, you know, 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks every day. One of the ones we used to sing was this Bhaja Bhakata Vatsala Shri Hari. So I got introduced in that way, but then when I was older, particularly in my association with Yamuna Devi, who many people know was Srila Prabhupada's disciple, and she just had a particular love for these songs also, and she made a specific effort to hold gatherings of intimate friends and devotees to come together and sing them. And the way that they would do that is in a very concentrated way, singing every day for, you know, say a month, take a month to go through one of the books and meet every evening and sing through consecutively. And that experience was so powerful for me. It was so impactful that I feel like I'm just drawing on it for the rest of my life since that time. This was sort of in my early 20s. And I feel like I've never been the same again, in the sense that it was just, it was so extremely powerful and faith-giving. So I really recommend making connection with these songs in whatever small way.
It's really inspiring to hear how even like association of very advanced devotees can like give us that inspiration for such a long time. I've read in Mother Yamuna's biography. So yeah, that's why I was thinking probably you will bring that point up. Thank you for reminding us of both Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajans as well as Mother Yamuna. I also got one question, but I thought like if some others have any questions, we can just open up first. If there are no other questions, then I can ask mine.
Sure.
Dan, would you like to unmute everyone?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for the beautiful class. You mentioned in the class how, you know, it takes years, decades for a person to actually come to the realization of oh, this is what my parents did, and have that gratitude for them. And then you connected it to how it also takes some time for us to come to become grateful to the Lord and try to do something about it. I was wondering if you might be able to tell us a little bit of how we might be able to speed up that process in some way to become more grateful to the Lord and actually do something. Because somebody like you, it seems like you sped up and now you're doing something for him.
That's a really wonderful question. I don't think I have sped up at all. I think, anyway, aside from what position I may be in, I was thinking about this morning actually, and I think it's very simple, at least to how Srila Prabhupada has guided us. That the more that the heart becomes cleansed of impurity by practicing these processes of devotional service, first and foremost, to hear and chant in the association of devotees, especially those who are more advanced than ourselves, then these realizations, they naturally come about because they are innate to the soul, right? So, for instance, I think many of us have had the experience that in the presence of a great devotee, we find ourselves feeling and thinking things that are not, maybe we would not think are characteristic. Like, oh, I don't usually feel like that, or I don't usually have thoughts like that. And sometimes that may be fleeting because that association may be fleeting in itself, but the reverberation may be felt for a long time afterwards. So the more that I take advantage of that, I experience this refining of consciousness, because the natural state is to be grateful to the Lord. The natural state is to be conscious of our relationship at every moment and to be reciprocating. That's our constitutional position, to be serving. So I think it's really about that refinement of consciousness. But on a very simple level, I was thinking that simply cultivating a practice of gratitude, acknowledging the simple things, for instance, those who practice yoga asanas or meditation will often just focus on the breath, focus on the breathing. Just acknowledging, I was doing this meditation training with Yogi Charu, and he was mentioning how the breath is the prana, is a gift from the Lord, and it's with us at every moment from the moment we come into this world. So just to acknowledge that simple thing, to acknowledge the shelter that I'm experiencing by a roof over my head, to acknowledge food that's coming to me, not by my own doing, that evokes a feeling of gratitude and a desire to reciprocate, in my experience.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mother Gopal.
Thank you for joining us this morning. And
Thank you so much.
Remember and develop that attitude of dependence on Krishna and develop confidence in that. So it's a nice meditation for us to carry for the rest of the day and for lives, obviously. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.